Steve D or Stevie D. You go by Stevie D or Steve? Doesn't matter. What?
I mean, the name Steve is very versatile.
Yeah.
You got your Steve, you got your Steven, Stevie. You go a lot of ways to go there.
All right, well, Steve, you go back many years. You are from the New Jersey area, and I'm amazed because you and I have a lot of friends in common. I'm surprised we've never met, or maybe we have and don't even realize it.
Probably over the years we've crossed paths.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I worked with Scott Meany for a number of years. I'm friends with Carmine Apiece.
Okay.
And his brother Vinny Appice. The same brothers, two different last names.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're right.
And I'm pretty sure that I've been to more than my fair share of Living Color shows back in the day. Anyway, you have quite an amazing resume. And instead of going, by each part of it, what we like to do here on the Big Fat American Radio Network is have the artist give us their rock and roll bio, so they get to tell a story in their own words without any interruption from these moron disc jockeys like myself. So, Stephen D., this is your rock biography.
Yeah. Well, I had a great in high school. It was a brand new Elizabeth High School.
Uh-huh.
I was the second graduating class, and this particular high school was brand new, state of the art at the time. It actually had a film studio where you could learn how to do film editing and everything related to making films and talk shows and just that whole side of the coin. And then it also had a recording studio class called Sound and the Tape Recorder, and it offered multi-track recording schooling. And I had a great teacher. His name was Jerry Hotchberg, and I used to bring my amp in, my Marshall, after school and record my originals. He would let me use the studio after school. So that's kind of like the beginning of the whole journey, and I became a musician. I became a recording engineer to be able to record my music because it was expensive to rent a studio. So I, indirectly learned my trade out of the necessity, fiscal necessity. But I got a job engineering in Roselle Park at a studio with a 16-track 2-inch, and the owner, Bob Bontempo, gave me the keys. So, same kind of scenario. I'd go there, from 12 to 6 a.m. and record my own material. But then I started getting sessions and making, I would make some money. And, if you hand the studio owner cash, usually you'll continue to be able to use the studio, and but it ballooned, and I got pretty good at recording, at engineering, and eventually made a living at it. And all along playing in club bands and writing and recording, and just on the journey of the music life, which many people are on.
And I don't think people realize how rich the music industry is in New Jersey. And what I mean by rich, I mean a fullness and all the stuff that goes on, where a lot of guys play in the same places, whether it's Keensburg at the Boardwalk, at the Jackie Keelan's place, or going down to Mary's husband's pub in Belmar, or places in Tom's River over by the Boardwalk in Point Pleasant. There's a lot of clubs, and Carteret and Elizabeth and Edison, and then in the North Jersey area, including Passaic. There's a lot going on in the Jersey area.
Well, it's Zach. There's a lot of places in the world that have little hot spots for music, and in the United States, you would think, when you think about that, you think about Nashville, you think about Austin. I understand Minnesota has a very throbbing, music scene. Portland, Oregon, and yes, I mean Jersey is right there in the thick of it, and it goes back to the '70s when the Jersey club scene was an entity in itself, and bands would relocate from all over the country just to play the Jersey club scene 6 nights a week. You know, there was a different bands would rotate rooms, you know, and I mean a Monday night would be packed. When do you ever see a packed club on a Monday night?
Well, I guess not too many times. Back in the 70s, I mean, it seemed like there was always something going on. I remember as a kid listening to the radio, which brings us to this. You grew up in the same area of New Jersey, basically, that I grew up in. And, you know, we would get in our cars, drive all over the place. What was the radio station that you would usually listen to growing up?
WNEW,
of course,
right? Yeah. WNEW and the King Biscuit Flower Hour on Friday night. I don't know if you remember that.
Of course I do. Yeah, that was great stuff. And see, here's the deal. And I don't know if you experience the same thing. I have a summer job working at St. Catherine's in East Kingsburg, which is now Middletown. We spoke about that earlier. And it was my summer job. And I made like first summer, $125 a week. This is in the 70s. Second year, $150 cash under the table. It's great, right? And I would save my money, and then we would go get concert tickets or whatever. Go to Jack's Music Store in Red Bank, New Jersey. You probably are familiar with that. And after I would go to a concert that I heard about on the radio, I'd buy all the albums. So I can distinctly remember going in the Jack's after I got back from seeing the Cars in concert and buying every single one of the Cars albums and just having a lot of fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like that in my community of New Jersey growing up, that was pretty much typical of what we would do. And my mom, we would talk about music stuff. So if I was, let's say I was scrubbing the floor, right? The machine. And we would listen to either NEW or sometimes the girls that worked with us, they would command the radio and change the channel. We listened to their top 40 stuff. Anyway, a song would come on, and within 3 notes, I'd tell you the track, the album side, who produced it, the year it came out. And my mom would go to me, what are you going to do knowing all of that stuff? How are you going to make money? How are you going to make a living? Well, I ended up becoming a disc jockey, and she was pretty impressed by that. What was your interaction with your parents when you decided that this is what you wanted to do for your life?
Well, they were very supportive. You know, they wanted their kids to be happy and wanted them to be able to pursue what it was that they, you know, wanted to do. So I got plenty of support from my mom and dad, although I think any parent is going to be skeptical about a child pursuing a life in music and in the arts in general. But luckily, they were very supportive, and my mother, they were my biggest fans.
That's great.
Like most parents. I mean, you know, my dad used to come see me perform in Queens with my cover band and with a suit, you know, he'd have a suit on.
That's great.
And just a proud, just same look in his eye that he had when he, you know, come to my baseball games and, you know, see me do things that he taught me to do. And, you know, my mom, you know, gosh, I wish my mom was in the music business, you know what I mean? That she was such an advocate for her son's success. So no matter where she was trying to plug me at the bank, making a deposit. Oh, by the way, my son.
Yeah, that's great stuff.
My mother would be on the phone with a credit card company and make friends with the person she was talking to and say, hey, let me put you on with my son.
Oh, that's cute. My mom would do the same sort of stuff when I was growing up as well. And my dad, he would actually, my son's on the radio over there, Q1043, and you know what? Here's his number. Give him a call. And my dad would give my people, strangers, my phone number to call. And maybe it was a kid who was trying to break into the business, whether it be on the air or in music itself. That's what my parents would do to me all the time. And so I can definitely relate to that. Now, another thing that we did growing up in New Jersey, I don't know if you did the same thing, is we would have these lists of the greatest guitar players of all time. Being that you are a guitar player and you play other instruments, I would assume, and you're into recording arts, which is an amazing skill set right there, who would be on your, and we don't have to do a top 10, but give me maybe a top 3 to 5 guitar players of all time, and maybe one of those guitar players is who you tried to style after.
Well, you know, in the very beginning of my playing, I listened to Black Sabbath and and the Beatles and Jethro Tull and bands like that. You know, I mean, so like I would have to say like Tony Iommi was my earliest teacher. You know, and of all guitar, I mean Jan Ackerman. I don't know if you remember Jan Ackerman from the band Focus, but if I had to, you know, quickly give you the top five, I mean, you know, Beck would have to be in there, Jimmy would have to be in there, Eddie is obviously in there, Michael Schenker I think should be in there, and the fifth slot would go to, I mean, Ritchie Blackmore should be in there. You know, we can go on for quite some time, but let's go with those five guys. Al Di Meola, I mean, that was an early influence on me. So many great players. Uli Roth.
Well, I mean, you definitely named a good group. And the one type of instrument, one member of the band that usually gets ignored, as far as I'm concerned. We didn't do too many lists about top bass players of all time. And this is something that we've been talking around the station and, you know, when I'm with friends. And there's one person that we had to put up on the list that always gets, I guess, overlooked. And that would be Chris Squire when it comes to playing the bass.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So,
Steve Howe, Chris Squire.
Yeah, all of those guys.
So many high level cats out there in the world. Back in the 60s and 70s, the level of talent on those records was off the charts.
Yeah.
And the way they made those records, the producers, and just with the technology they had, that's why those records set the bar for everything after it.
Right. And since we're talking 60s, you know who always gets, I guess, doesn't get mentioned on the list is Paul McCartney as a bass player.
Well,
yeah.
You know, he would have been my first.
Yeah.
Well, Paul's great because his influences were Motown guys like Jameson and you know, the guys on those Motown records, you know. So and then he applied a lot of that knowledge to Beatle bass parts and also his tone, you know. But Paul would have been my first mention.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I immediately mentioned Chris because he passed away over the past few years, and you know, this is what we talk about. I know it's boring to most people, but I get excited about this stuff, and I really like multi-track recording. Now, you go back to the days of tape. Nowadays, it seems like anybody can do it. Here's my criticism on that. I look at sound waves, and I notice that when someone does their master mix, especially with, you might say, hip-hop and pop music, they compress the hell out of it. And I don't get the enjoyment of looking at the actual sound waves on my digital recording machines and stuff like that. Where do you think we are as far as multi-track recording, multi-track digital recording? And do you think that people should go back into the traditional studios to record, or do you think there's an advantage of recording at home?
I think that there's still a lot of guys out there who take the art of recording seriously and are doing it. There's so many different mixers and engineers doing things the way that they enjoy doing them. I don't think when you say recording at home or recording in studio, I don't think that's really that really matters, because I mean it's not about where the recording is done. It's about who's doing it and how it's being done and what are you going for. If you're looking to do an organic recording, then your best bet is to use great players, and do it the way they did it from the beginning. I was watching the Motown special last night, and Smokey Robinson said, "Yeah, well, when we were recording at Hitsville, we had one track.
Yeah.
He goes. Then we got 2 tracks, and we thought we had the greatest state-of-the-art situation on the planet. We were able to put the singer in another room. So, and as far as the other side of the coin, like if you the current radio and the current pop, all the pop records, the huge records that the music that record companies, I believe, are putting real money into, I think it's really more, artist and producer based, engineer. Like there's not a band in the room anymore. It's just a room with the writers, the artists, and then an engineer and a producer, and it's done in a room and with a computer, and it's there's not too many tracks on mainstream radio that have a real drummer on them. I believe most of it is sequenced and done in the box, as they say.
Well, you can do that on GarageBand. I goof around with that all the time on my iPhone. I've actually put together songs. My wife's like, "Wow, I can't believe you did that." I go, "Well, I can't play any instruments, but I know how to put the sounds together."
Yeah. I remember my buddy, my friend Dan, who used to help me with my computer when I was first getting into computers, and he didn't play anything, and he would play me his tracks, and I was like, "Well, how the heck are you doing this?" He was doing everything. He was doing everything on his computer keyboard.
Yeah, it's fun. It can be a lot of fun. Well, I mean, there's an upside to it. So bring us to where you are now. You started working with Corey Glover from Living Colour, and this track really rocks. Your time has run out. Talk a little bit about that track, some of the other musicians that joined you, and where you're going to go from here, and release dates and all that kind of stuff.
The record is out already in everywhere but the United States.
Of course.
It drops, as they say.
Yeah, I know. That's a new one, right?
Well, it's not. Yeah. I don't think it's so new anymore, Zach. Friday, it'll be I mean, you could order it, but I believe in the United States the CD will ship on Friday, and I guess download. Well, I think you could already download it and stream it, but Friday is the official release date here in the United States. So that song is one of 12 tracks on the record, torn from the pages.
Nice, a full album.
A full album. Yeah, there's one instrumental on the record. Corey sang 11 songs, and that was the last. That was the last song recorded on the record. I wrote the record over a period of years. I'd rather not even mention how many.
That's all right. It took me 17 years to graduate from college.
Oh, okay. Well, better late than never, as they say.
You got to keep going forward, man. You just why? Yeah, I wouldn't be embarrassed by that.
Pace
how long
yourself.
How long did it take you to write all of these tracks?
Well, I mean, 2009. There's a track called "Soul to Stone," a track called "Haunted." The music on those tracks were born, I think, in like 2009.
Come on, it's only 10. That's nothing. I think that you're fine. You should probably say, because that message gives to the listener and to your fans, never give up. Just keep going for it.
Yeah, and it also enabled me to create the concept for the record, which was just a sentiment of just a lot of things that I experienced in my personal life over a period of time. So it's kind of why it's called Torn from the Pages. That is why it's called Torn from the Pages. So that track was the last track written. It's the most aggressive track on the record, and Scooter Warner plays drums on it. Scooter played with Cyndi Lauper, and he's
amazing, yeah.
Yeah, Scooter is a very, very high-level player. I actually met Scooter through Corey and Mike Ciro, Corey's writing partner, guitar player, good friend. And I played bass on it. I did all the guitar. Mike Ciro, Corey's partner, in Corey's original band, his solo, his act, Vice. He and I did the soloing. We went back and forth. So Mike's the only other guitar player on the whole record, as a guest on that song, and Corey did all the vocals on that track, and
he nails it, man. He nails it.
Yeah, leading backup.
He sounds like he did 30 years ago.
Yeah, he doesn't miss a beat. You know, he's like an Avenger. He's a superhero. The superhero. He's got the V on his. So yeah. So that's a brief rundown on that track.
Yeah, a nice little synopsis. And I like how it starts. You got this fade-in effect. See, there's really weird things that always catch my ear. Maybe it's not so weird, but the way the song said, that sound you got going on, I know it could be a dumb question to you, but what was the inspiration on how you started that song?
That's an excellent question, Zach, actually. And I love talking about this stuff. The intro on that is actually a B3 organ patch reamped through a Leslie speaker cabinet amplifier, which is a Leslie is looks like a big piece of furniture, and it's basically the go-to key B3 rig for, it's a standard B3 amplifier, and you could play anything through it. I mean, Ozzy sang through one. George Harrison and Eric Clapton probably made it famous for guitar players to play through. So to give it that ascending effect that it has, the rising effect, that's my buddy Kenny Siegel, who designed and made pedals for a company called Snarling Dogs, which is a guitar pedal. Jeff Beck actually uses the wah-wah. Kenny has this pedal called the Mold Spore, which looks like a big yellow foot, and it's got two eyes on it. When you engage it, these two red eyes light up, and it's just kind of like a synthesizer effect. It's like a ring modulator with all kinds of other circuits within it, and I asked Kenny if he could make me like a pedal version of it, and he made me a one-off pedal. So there's a knob on the pedal where you turn the knob, and it does that. It changes the pitch where it actually sounds like it's ascending. So that's kind of the addition to the organ sound. That's what gives it that extra gain stage that you're hearing.
Hey, that's really cool. So you gave us basically your ingredients and secret sauce, which is awesome. And now, if any person's listening to that and they can actually duplicate what you did, I would say, bravo. Anybody can put that one together.
It's Snarling Dogs Mold Spore. You can get them on eBay.
That's cool.
Reverb, and my buddy Kenny Siegel, good friend who's helped me over the years. He's a genius, great guitar player as well. Yeah, man. So, and there's a lot of tricks on that record. I mean, there's a lot of different ways things come together. There's no set way to get from point A to point B in the arts.
Yeah. You know what I like about what I'm hearing about this record is that there's no basic signature sound so that someone would go, oh yeah, that's definitely Stevie D. You're mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah, there's definitely different styles on the record.
I like that.
I mean, it's for the most part, it's being received well. I think the occasional listener may get a little thrown by kind of the way I look at it like this. If you're going to listen to this record and you're thinking like it's bouncing around too much, I equate it to when I was young and I was buying the new records of bands that came out. I remember when I bought, I guess it was I don't think it was Night at the Opera, but I remember when I bought A Day at the Races and I heard Tie Your Mother Down.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted the whole record to be like that.
Yeah, it's all over the place, that record. Yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But who am I to compare my record to a Queen record? But I will.
There's nothing. You know what, Stevie? There's nothing wrong with that. You got to believe in yourself. You should put out something. Anybody who's listening that's doing any sort of art, put your best foot forward, do your very best, give it all you've got, and be proud of it. And if you want to compare yourself to Queen or Beethoven, cool, go for it. Who's going to argue? That's a most.
And also, if you're going to do art, go into it with you can't like put boundaries on art. You can't like say, well, we got to do this or we got to do that, or I don't believe that's always the best way to look at art. And and not only that, but for me, I like first of all, it's all about the songs. The treatment. When we were young, it was more about the treatment and the production. And if as guitar players, if a track didn't have a roaring guitar, we had one eye open. Boy, this better be a good song if there's not going to be a great guitar tone on it. So, at this point in the journey, I really like records that have the dynamics and they don't rip your face off every second of the every second that there's sine waves. It's nice when it's bringing you on a dynamic journey. So yeah,
I totally agree with you. Only go with formulas when you have no other choice. Otherwise, just invent like you're Einstein or Edison in your laboratory. It was very nice talking to you, Steve D. How can people follow you? How can they get the new album, all that stuff?
The website is tornfromthepages.com, and you could pretty much, at that location, you can see the videos that we have, and there's a link to purchase the CD. Well, there's a link right on the homepage there to access everywhere that it's available.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. There's Facebook and Instagram links there, so that's kind of where I'm sending everybody at this point, because it's one URL, one-stop shop to find out anything. And if anybody goes there and they see any issues or have any suggestions with improving the accessibility, I'm open to any suggestions at this point.
Good for you, and it was great talking to you with Stevie D. We'll have to have you live here in the studio one of these days down the road, have you visit, talk radio and records and all of that stuff, and maybe bring in one of your friends that you recorded on one of these tracks. We're going to do something a little bit different. Not only are we going to play this song on a national show this weekend, but we're going to make it part of this interview right now. So here we go with Your Time Has Run Out on the Big Fat American Radio Network.